Okay, have people got some questions down?
Yeah.
Try and get at least sort of 5 questions, 10 if you can. As in, I need a volume of questions, I think, to test what I want to do. Anyone got any questions or comments for me before we move on? Anyone need a bit more time?
All good.
All good? All righty, so hopefully you've written the questions down. And what I'm going to sort of wage you is I'm going to share a framework that I've developed with colleagues, actually colleagues at Durham University, and I worked in the Small Business Centre for a number of years, and we were our research was looking at success ingredients in businesses, and actually at the time we were sponsored by Barclays Bank. And it was kind of, how do you recognize an entrepreneur when they come through the door? Does computers say no to giving them a loan or whatever? And they wanted it, and there's some basic success ingredients that I wanted to share with you, regardless of sector, regardless really of product or service. And I think hopefully it'd be quite useful. And I often do this exercise before starting to do a business plan. So this is kind of the pre-business plan stage. In fact, it could develop into a business plan. So I'm going to offer you a framework that resulted in the research at Durham. And I am going to wager that any question you have written down will fit into this framework. If we find a question that doesn't, then I'd like to work with you. Or I'd like to invest money into your business or something. It'd be great. That's my offer to you. I'm quite confident that this is a framework that's pretty robust, and it'd be great if you can break it. Like any academic framework, it needs to be tested. So I don't know what you've written down. You might want to write some more questions down quickly, because I can invest in your business if you break it. Okay, that's how confident I am, and it'd be great to extend it. So the only question you can't really have, you can have any other question, is it a good idea? Because, no one can ever tell you that. You watch things like Dragon's Den, they say no to ideas that go on and do great in the marketplace. Is it a good idea? Very subjective. Again, we've been moving to say, well, a good idea for a business has to have value for a customer or a user, and there's an exchange, potential exchange of value, i.e. you sell something and the money comes back into your business or whatever you're exchanging. And then it becomes an opportunity we're going to explore and put a business plan around. So I'm wobbling on, so you've got a chance to write a few more questions down. And so I'm going to share with you the model, and I flicked it up at the beginning. It was a part of that new venture creation process that I showed you. Essentially, any questions people are going to ask you about if you're going to be in a pitch situation, about your business plan, are going to fall into these 4 areas. They're going to be asking, or they should be asking, about what is the idea. And of course, we've established today that the idea is only a good idea if it's got customers or users. Yeah, without customers, you've still got costs. Say that again, without customers, you have got costs in your business. I don't have a lot of freelance work because of COVID at the minute, but I'm still running my business, and I have lots of costs around websites and accountants and insurance and professional indemnity. I have all my costs, regardless of the contracts being less at the moment because of the pandemic. So without customers, you've got costs in business. A key area that most business startup programs miss completely is this notion of motivation of you and your immediate team, because you are your business and your team is the business. If you're not motivated and that's dwelling, then often the business is not going to be successful. The other areas, quite simply, are ability and skills. So that's the people aspect, and if you don't have those abilities or skills in your business, who can you partner and broker with to get them in? And it may be time limited. You may be able to hire them in. You may be able to exchange with other colleagues, but you need certain abilities and skills to actualize. And then the last quadrant is the resourcing, really. And resourcing is 3 areas: people, money, and kit. So we established already today, when we looked at the donut problem, that people were quite a key resource and quite an expensive resource. And maybe AI, artificial intelligence, maybe robotics, maybe technology maybe taking over from people we don't know, but it's a resource we needed. We needed people in our business, and in a Western European, and still European, I hope, in a Western context, people and labour costs are really high. So it's people, money we know about, finances. People think resources, just money. Money is just one aspect in your business, and not all money is equal. There's many forms of money, and finance is a different session I can do with you later down the line if you want. And then kit, bits of kit, like I'm talking to you now, my X2, a bit of technical kit to enable to deliver my service training with you. So I need bits of kit, but I'm a knowledge-based business, so I don't need a lot of kit, but I need some IT kit. Okay, resource, people, money, kit. So I'm reckoning, I'm wobbling on. This is really a golden bullet, essentially. If you can have this up your sleeve for pitching. It can be the beginning of a business plan. Often, I don't sit on many business planning competition panels because I don't think they're worth the salt. Many people can create a great business plan. Not many people can actualize the business plan, put it in action. So you should, as graduates and as bright folk, be able to write a good business plan. Whether it helps you implement the company is a different kettle of fish. But it's a great, and this will test where you're up to now, if you can put your business around this model. So you've got those questions in front of you. And can you apportion them to the quadrant? Can you see? You don't have to share them with me or with each other. I'm wagering you, I'm challenging you that all of your questions will go into at least one of the quadrants. So idea against market. What is the idea or the service, product or service? And it's only valid if it's, in business, if it's got a customer, someone that it's creating value for. Motivation in you and your top team, how do you feel motivated to be self-employed, or portfolio, some employment, some unemployment, some part-time employment alongside your business. All the areas, creative confidence, the stress of being self-employed, but also the liberation, the freedom that gives you of being your own boss. So what are your motivations? Are you clear about that? People buy people. When you're pitching an idea, most investors as well will look at the team behind the idea, because they know that's the people that actually, you can get consultants to write your business plan for you, but it won't be those consultants that implement the plan. It's the people often that investors are looking for, as well as the uniqueness or the technology or whatever it is. So the resources, people, money, kit, have you got people? Have you got access to finance? Have you got the bits of kit that you need? Can you beg, borrow and steal? Can you work with resources inside the university? Can you look at people's, it's a great time for looking at businesses that are liquidating. There's loads of kit that's really cheap. One people's misery is other people's kind of opportunity, really. There's a lot of really great secondhand, sales at the moment for physical kit that you might need into your business. Why could you have to buy kit? Can you lease kit? Can you hire kit? Can you keep your cash flowing through the business? And then ability and skills. You need to know around, have the top team of the people got the ability? Are they coached and mentored? Have they got consultants? Can they put professional services around it? Have they got a team or a network or that they can harness these ability and skills? So they're kind of the 4 areas. And while I've been talking, hopefully you've been looking down your list, and if not, doing it so now. Do your questions fit into at least one of those categories? So I suppose let's start with, anybody got a question that they don't think fits into one of those success criterias?
Yeah.
Or yes, or they don't know where to put it. Could be the other one. Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah, obviously with us and our services in cybersecurity, ethical and legal come into it quite a bit. So I don't know whether that's motivation or
Interesting.
Is it ethical, is it legal?
Make a case for it to be motivation. Why would you put it in motivation? Is interesting.
Because whether it is legal or ethical would determine whether or not you go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or it might determine what how you're testing or your scope of one of your clients.
Mm-hmm. So you have to have the ability and skills to deliver that as well, don't you? And the robustness.
Okay. So it'd be abilities and skills.
It could be as well.
Okay.
So quite quickly we can see questions, and that's why this little template is really skillful to have up your sleeve. I remember it by the acronym MARE, motivation, ability, idea, and resource. The MARE model, we always called it. And I had it if people were asking me a question, like, is your idea, can you tell me about the ethics and the legalities, Matthew, around your cybersecurity solution? And I'm on a panel. You could answer it, therefore, from a motivational point of view. You could also answer it from the ability and skills. You can make sure you cover off what they're asking you. Can you see that?
Yeah.
From different perspectives. Great, thank you. Anyone else got a question they don't know where to put on the framework, or they don't think fits?
We think we've got one.
Great, Rachel and Ben, is it?
Hi, Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, hi Ben.
Because basically the question is, do you have a contingency plan for if like COVID happens again? Because
do you have a contingency plan? Great. Where does that go? Where would you put
any of them? Because it's such a situational thing. Because it's not a yearly thing you can plan for.
Is it not?
No one like this time last year was anyone going to predict anything like this was going to happen.
So you're asking the person coming to you do you have a contingency plan? Where could that go? I could think about where that might go.
I think it could go in like maybe market, like idea or market, or maybe ability and skills.
Tell me why. Why did it go in ability and skills? That's an interesting one, because I would put it in resource, but tell me where you put it in ability and skills, Rachel.
More like the skill to kind of predict things and kind of have the plan in place, like that kind of thing. Maybe? Yeah,
so global pandemic extreme. I'm not saying you have to have a solution or a vaccine for that, but surely you'd want to know that person there's had an awareness of, macro environmental influences. Like you said, they'd have some contingency, whether it was sufficient or not, I don't know, but they'd be thinking in those lines of how they may then go online, or how they may not work, or how they may adapt. Would they not choose to launch with a delay, whatever it would be, but they have an awareness, they've considered it. Can you see what I'm saying? You're halfway there. When people have got an awareness and they are planning, the session's about planning. I'm not saying the plan's great yet, we don't even know it, but they've got an awareness. Yeah. I'd actually put it in resource. I mean, because I think it means you can't really future-proof a business, and I'm not sure what that term really means, but they are looking ahead at scenario planning, maybe. It fits into there. And it's definitely because it takes time to do that, and they will be actually apportioning their internal resources to that, furloughing people or whatever they're doing. It's resource intense, a contingency plan. It costs you potentially. You might have to put money away for that, or delay time frames on campaigns or launches or whatever. Yeah, so I would put it in resource, but you've got to have the ability and skills. And I think, the idea gets the market. If the marketplace disappears because of COVID, then that has a mass. So brilliant. That's kind of goes, if I was clever, I'd have a 3D model on the screen. Could you see almost like a Rubik's Cube? If you were churning bits, they would move other bits, kind of, so yeah. Perfect. I think it fits, but I think it fits in several categories. And really, contingency is about planning. It's about the theme. It's about being planned and planning and continuously planning. So, for example, I would never say a plan for us. If you're going to write a business plan, we're not looking. You do a year's plan, maximum 3 years. If people are asking for a 5-year plan, shoot them, because not shoot them literally, but the world changes in 12 months, 3 years. It's your agile, you're a small business. I don't think, universities have a 10-year plan. They're a massive public resource and they are managing public funds. So the time frame of your planning matters. So I'd say all of you starting up with a 12-month plan at the moment with a 3-year projection. So you can be lean and iterate. Anyone else got a question doesn't fit, or a question about the model, the MARE model? Okay, so you may want to use the model as a beginning of planning. I mean, I would really recommend now that you start putting your own idea around that model. What are your idea? Who is the market? What is, answering some of the questions that you've written for the exercise for yourself. And it's a great one for those of you working in teams as well, particularly most business plans. I don't see any motivation of the people. Bearing in mind, investors invest in people because your business ideas hopefully will change. Then they're investing in you and your capacity to take something to market. So motivation is a key thing I see missing in business plans. And often, being British, we don't say, what is your motivation? We say it, we wrap it up in different ways. So it's nice to be able to answer a question from all those different quadrants, essentially. Okay, so the model is also useful at different stages in business development. So for you guys right now, you're setting up, I'm presuming, I think I understand that. So your idea and catching those first customers is quite important. So your motivation and your idea and market is where I'd recommend you guys starting if you're in the process of setting up your business. Just work on those areas to start with. But once you're in business and you're running a business, then I think resourcing and keeping the ability and bringing in the different partners to make sure you have the correct and appropriate contingency now of ability and skills becomes more vital in the day-to-day running and innovating and trying to stay in business and being sustainable. When I'm looking at growth in firms, I'm not a consultant that works with, let's just completely diversify and change direction. I'm looking to consolidate companies, products and services. And often when I'm doing growth, I do it as a project, trying therefore to protect the sort of core existing business competency or value offer, so it's not too disruptive. So business projects, I'm looking at ideas, new value creation, maybe different markets or a combination of both, and then looking at the resourcing around that internally or maybe externally if we're looking for sponsorship or investment in business. And then you as an individual, don't forget you are the business right now. What is your motivation? Really knowing your ability and skills, and also know what you don't want to do. And when you get experienced and good at things, I get asked to do stuff that I am capable of doing, but I'm not motivated to do anymore. And that's important to do a good job. So, what are your motivations here right now, and what are the ability and skills? So I really offer the MARE model as a fantastic tool. It's not new. You can have a look at all the research online, but I use it pre-planning. I use it when I go in sometimes in a company that I'm working on, just to get a snapshot of where they are right now, not where they want to be, not where they've been, but where are you right now? So I offer the MARE model as a framework for doing that. I'm going to move on, do a lot more stuff. Is there any questions on that? Is that useful? Have you come across it before?
No, I've never come across that. It's really useful, actually, to just give you a better idea of where you are and where you need to go.
Great. So I use it if I'm on a business planning competition, or I'm on some sort of pitches, or and you'll generally find people have done loads of work. Have a look at some business plans. The motivation side is the one often that is lacking, and that's kind of, that's my bread and butter. I do a lot of work around the motivation side, because then the rest will fall into place. As long as you've got an idea with value, I want to know what the value inside the company is. Why are you going into business in the first place? Keeping that motivation high. Okay, we're going to move on. So what about this motivation? Well, being self-employed brings a different set of conditions for the individual or for your team. There is financial insecurity. Often you're putting your own investment into that. Particularly I'm a sole trader. My consultancy, I'm in limited, I'm in different legal structures, but there is insecurity around that, particularly in times of COVID. You're working, it's much easier. I realize if I fail as an entrepreneur, I'll get a job. It's much easier really to be employed, because you get holidays, paid holidays actually, and you get what you get also, you get lots of things. You get a whole set of resources and IT, pick up the phone, IT, legal department, boom. And being employed is great. And you don't have to work such long hours really. So, and you don't have to work such irregular hours, but, and there can be a lot of isolation when you're leading your own firm. But I wouldn't do it any other way. You become very unemployable once you ran your own business, once you have taken your, I'm 25 years down the line now. In fact, Teesside is one of my first jobs. I've only had 2 jobs in my life. And my mum keeps saying, when are you going to get a proper job? But I am actually employed at the moment at Teesside, because that's easy in terms of the contract work that I'm doing. And it's really great. I'm so excited by all the resources are being associated to a university. It's just great. But I'm probably crazy to manage, because I'm used to being in charge of my destiny. But anyway, so it's a negative. But the positive side is the independence. but being mindful that you're interdependent. That is the trick. That's why you're planning to bring people internally on board and to engage your key stakeholders with a bit of a roadmap here. You've got freedom to be creative. I think you're a mistress or master of your own destiny. You have choice. I mean, I've got to be mindful not to work with friends, because you can just be getting to groupthink, you know, to broaden your networks. But it's great. I get to do, I can say no to work. I'm building something. I do have a sense of achievement. And I, you know, starting at, I graduated and I got my first business straight out of university for my first degree. And I was working with a much wider, my first business was training police, probation, social workers. And, you know, I was working at a level that I wouldn't have gone into at the age 21. So it was great, that exposure, with a real diverse range of people as a scruffy arts graduate at that point. So that's motivation's critical. I wanted to share with me, you know, how do you know an idea is a good idea? Well, you know, if a friend does come to you, and when you are successful, not just your, when you are successful, people will come to you and ask you to get involved. So I have my own criteria, and there's nothing theoretical about this. It's just my own criteria when I'm taking on projects. So, you know, I encourage you, and you don't have to share this with me or us today, but I really encourage you to know what your personal bottom line is. Which contract are you going to accept? So for me, what I might consider when I'm selecting projects, you know, I think it's a good idea. Don't know if it's going to be, but I'm going to get involved. I want to know the market. I want to know the sector organizations. I want to know the problems, the issues, and the needs in that sector. I need to know that the people I'm getting involved with, or it's a project for myself, that I've done some market research. And I want to know, is it innovative? You know, is it bringing something new or novel or probably quite creative? Is it extending what we know? Because part of my work is research as well. So is it innovative is one of my criteria. I don't want to do what's done before. That's for me. I have to be very careful. I might have the skills, often I do, but I don't often have the capacity. So do I have it? That's something I think about. And when I get a return on my investment, an investment for you guys at the minute, I would say, is sweat equity. You know, you're not necessarily investing a lot of your own money, but you're investing a lot of sweat equity. A business plan, actually, creating a business plan as in a physical document or file, electronically, digitally. People that are working with you are really looking for that, because they may see you haven't put money in, but if you've taken time to create a business plan, they see you're putting some, I call it sweat equity, into that venture. You're serious about it. So what's your return on investment? For me, often it's my time. You know, this is time away from family or other things, so is it worth it? Will the project achieve its desired outcome? Does it create value? For me, it's not a good idea unless it's created. I don't have to like the idea, but I have to see that it creates a value. And often I like the idea as well, but first of all, I'm seeing what is the value created, and will it bring value back into my business and my work? Will it create commercial interest? Because it's not a hobby. Without customers, you've got costs. I say that again because sometimes I do have to go to people and say, this is great, but it's a hobby. It's not right now here for you, commercial. And I'm the bearer of bad news. Sometimes I'm brought into projects particularly to say that, because I can say it because I'm external. So, you know, without customers, you still have costs. So will it attract commercial interest? Is it sustainable? You know, that you might take that as green. You know, I don't want to do things that mainly cause harm to the planet and environment. We've got a finite resource on Earth. So I want to know it's sustainable. For me, again, these are my personal. This is my checklist, Wendy Parvin. You need to create your own, and it may have some of these, it may have very different things. You know, will it make £1 million? Might be yours. I don't know. Do I know, this is key for me, do I know and can I make the people who could help me make it happen? I know at age 52, I will not have the complete skill set or even the capacity. So I need to know, can I put a quick team around it? You know, who else is involved really? I want to know that. What am I bringing that differentiates? Because basically the most successful starts currently in the UK are team starts. That's the way it is. So even if you're a sole trader, look at who else you can collaborate with. You are more competitive when you are collaborating. How can I acquire the resources to make it happen? So that's people, money, and kit. particularly, you know, in COVID, if we're doing international projects, you know, how do we get the resources to broker that? You know, and the bottom one, look at that bottom question. That should be the top question, actually. Am I motivated to make this happen? Because of everything else in place, guys, best plan in the world. If you're not motivated, this is not turning you, it's not turning you on, switching you on, then it's not part of the success criteria. Is there any questions around my little personal criteria when I'm choosing a contract? Is it useful to see what I might go through in my head? Is there any questions on that? Do you, I can't see you guys, as you know, so is there anything that you didn't understand why I would be considering that? So this is my selection criteria when I'm deciding to jump into a new venture or a new project.
No, I think everything here is like, yeah, really, I guess sensible is the right word, you know, like it's good to kind of evaluate, like you might have an idea, but if you go through these steps and you realize it doesn't like tick the boxes, then it might be a good idea to reevaluate like what you're doing and maybe pivot it or do something completely different if you're not married to the idea.
Brilliant. And if you're working with a team, I would really recommend, guys, do your own, it doesn't have to be long as mine. I'm you know, 25, 30 years into running my business now. And life changes and different responsibilities. So, you know, it might have been more commercially focused to start with, you know, different success criteria, different, nothing's right or wrong, but I know what I need to get from projects because I don't have a lot of time, for example, to go on lots of training programs and skill up. I like to choose projects that will skill up on the job. So I'm doing quite a bit at the minute about immersive web and audience engagement, and I'm quite interested in different technologies. Again, I'm not techie, but it's useful for me when I'm working in the creative sector around audience participation and engagement. So I'm working with people that are experts in that, and that helps me. You know, it's like I want to drive a car, I don't want to build a car. Does that make sense? But I need to know how to drive a car. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just having to sync away. I don't know what's happening. My battery's going a bit slow. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So that's why. Last point, I want you to write I invite you to write your own selection criteria, and then to share that with you. If you're in a team, share that with the team and write the team criteria. So when opportunities come, when friends do come to you, and they will, with ideas, you know why and how and which, you know if it's got value to you in your business development, and you know it's an opportunity for you, because it could be create great value, but it may not be an opportunity for you right here and right now. Okay, I'm going to spend the next sort of virtually an hour. We'll have a little break in that, but and then you'll reflect on. I want to just quickly dive into business plans now, if that's okay. I think I've set the scene into why we plan, how we create value, how we start to think about, okay, planning is about validating our ideas, and that's how we might develop a business plan. There is lots of slides at the end of this presentation which takes each section of a traditional business plan and tells you what could be in each section. I don't need to go through those. You're welcome to have them. I'll send the final presentation through to Lizzie. Any questions you can kind of email me. But I also say a traditional plan because I know you're probably working on, is it business model canvases you're doing as well? Is that right? It's kind of more sort of design led. So I'm taking the opposite. I'm taking the more traditional plan, like you may take to a bank or an investor. Is that okay? That's how I'm pitching it. Okay, so let's think about the purpose of your plan, or it can be a report often if you're already in business. You're often reporting on current activity and then planning for the next stage. So I know you're at different stages. So it may be your initial business plan, or it may be reporting and planning. So really, you know, working down the page, your plan means really that you are monitoring, you are better informed, you can take decisions, you can share and do collective decisions, you can manage in the company, and hopefully you are successful in business. So ultimately, the business plan is for you. It's a manifesto for you and your team. That's who you're writing it for to start. People forget that. I wrote my first business plan for a competition. Has anyone, I think it's the Livewire competition. It's Shell, the petroleum company Shell. Anyone? Lizzie, do you? Yeah.
I've heard of it. I haven't, we haven't entered any money into it yet.
Oh, it's great. I'm an ambassador. I mean, I did it years ago as a graduate, and I think it's hilarious. I didn't even know what business plan was, because I was trading at the time, and I was kind of writing my business plan backwards, which is obviously really common for small businesses. It's not, you're not weird if you're doing that. So it's called Livewire, one word. Recommend it. It's sponsored by Shell, the petroleum company. You may have an issue on that, I don't know. And their website has got a heap of resources. It's a global competition, and you go through different rounds, and each time you get money and prizes and stuff like that. So it's quite, and then you get support for your business development. So why not have a look at their website? So anyway, I wrote my first business plan for Shell Livewire, and we won the regional award. And I wasn't writing it for myself. So that a lesson learned, because I couldn't manage and run the company on the plan that I wrote, although it was a great plan apparently. So it's for you. So have a quick look down why I think it's important to write a business plan. I'm not going to go through all of these. Anything you don't understand, please ask. I think of it as a manifesto for your business. Does that seem quite straightforward? Entrepreneurs don't want to spend their time writing business plans, but if you can find a purpose and a real reason other than entering a competition, which was mine, then it's great. It's really important. Your assessment criteria to value, you can define who you want to partner with, who you want to work with, who are your customers, and who you're not going to work with, what you're not going to do. In fact, if you don't know where to start, you've got this unique opportunity, guys, of designing. I know it sounds grand, but you've got the unique opportunity of designing your own organization. If I had £1 for every time someone says, I want to be my own boss, well, then I would be rich, really. Because people want to have that independence, but they're not necessarily designing organizations, even if it's just one, yourself, me, 1, 2, or 3 of you, designing how you want to work. So how we do business is as important as what we do. So that's the purpose of your plan to start with. Okay, who might want to see it and why? So I've said, yeah, internally write it for you, but also the banks might want to see it. Yeah. So you're writing it for you in terms of strategy, how you're going to organize, how you're going to respond to changes in the marketplace, a bit like the donut problem. The banks often, unfortunately, want to see a business plan. As you probably know, banks are the last port of call for funding, for finance. Anybody know how the banks fund small businesses? Anyone know the ratio of funding, what you have to put in and what they'll match it with? Anyone know that? As a rule of thumb, I mean. Anyone? Okay, it's pound for pound. It's generally a pound for pound, a rule of thumb to get banks, the collateral. You've got to put £1 in and they'll put £1 in, really. So you have to have some kind of asset or resource that you're putting forward, if that's your home or whatever, to get. So banks are generally in the UK, I'm not in the States, different again, but in the UK, banks are, for small businesses, I think I'm fine in saying this, Lizzie, are the last port of call generally. People go to family and friends first. Yeah. Supply chain companies, well, yeah, often you need the technical capacity, you might, partnering with them. Venture capitalists, business angels, business angels, someone's mentioned that already. Business angels are people like my colleagues that I have that have done good in business locally, and they want to put tens of thousands into other companies, small amounts of money. Have you heard of the Gabriel Fund in the area? People aware of any of the angel companies, investors in the area? Well, then check out. Well, they're generally local entrepreneurs often mentoring on my programs that just want to put something back. It's low risk, they may lose it. And often business angels want to get involved, give a bit of advice, feel very lived. You know, the Gabriel Fund is one of those. Some of my friends are involved in it at the minute. Anyway, I digress. Venture capital, different again, bit like banks, their business is to make money. So yes, they want to get involved, much larger sums of money, venture capitalists. Is this all very familiar? Am I sucking at your granny sucking eggs here? Are people familiar with all of this? Is this useful or not?
It's useful, Wendy. The person that they're going to be pitching to for this competition is a private investment, like a private will that was given to the university.
Okay, so it's kind of more business angel, isn't it? It's about resource and support. Yeah, brilliant. That's the level that you want to be at. So. Venture capitalists, just so you know, I mean, because people think VCs are the way you go, I would avoid that as long as you can, because if you default on payment back, they start taking a percentage of your company. Yeah, so they don't have a mentoring coach. VCs are not necessarily hand-holding. Business angels and the competition you're involved in is. It's brilliant you're getting this resource around it. That demonstrates the difference between angels, probably that's why they're called angels, I guess, and venture capitalists. But I would say often crowdsourcing, but it's very, fintech, financial technology, small amounts of money. You put a crowdsourcing campaign together, campaign together. You don't reach your target. Lots of little people like myself putting 50, 100, 500 quid into these. If the campaign doesn't reach its goal, then no one puts the money in. I also really recommend crowdfunding sites as a good source of market research. See who's crowdfunding for what in your service sector, because that's where obviously the new innovations are coming. Blah, 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 other funding, I don't know, enterprise agencies, you've got TEDCO, you've got loads in the Northeast where are awash with funding. You can have a buffet, pre-COVID, you could go to an enterprise agency business startup event every day and have a buffet, because there's so many public sector and private sector enterprise agencies. If you want to know, get in touch with me, but I recommend Project Northeast, I recommend Livewire, I've said, I recommend, there's so many resources external to the university that will support you around developing your business idea and even your business plan, but don't let them write it for you, otherwise you don't have ownership. And then there's procurement organisations, there's the notion of leasing, if you want to lease or get a commercial lease, or they want to see your credit worthiness. So these are different people that may want to see a business plan. Okay, just back to investors. I guess you're pitching to investors. I guess what they want to see is Campari. They want to see people. They want to see the character, your ability. They want to see your means, as in sweat equity, if you're putting money in. They want to see the purpose of that business. They want to see the amount of money that you're needing. They want to know how you're going to repay it, and they want some sort of insurance around that. Insurance psychologically, as if you're going to be around and not exit stage left, but also professional indemnity or public liability, or some of the insurances that you are going to need around running a business. Campari, for those who are not as old as me, was a drink back in the 80s that you had with Coke. So Campari is a great little acronym when you're putting your pitches together. That's what investors are looking for. Look at number one, character. People invest in people. If they think you've got ability to commercialize, but the idea is a bit naff, they will work with you on a different idea. So characters, motivation, you might want to call it, is important. Turn-offs when you're impressing an investor, saying to them, our figures are conservative. Tell them the real figures. Tell them where you're really at. Doing millions of exponentially over 3 years, saying we're going to be a multi-million company is quite a turn off at your stage. Saying things like key suppliers are signing next week. Well, if they're signing next week, you should have waited a week and then done your pitch. Getting actual proof that you've got partners and suppliers around you, even if that's in the appendices of your plan, saying that their intention to be your supplier is great. Often we have this bespoke, I hate the word bespoke, it's in many business plans, try not to use it. We have no competition, we're so unique. We have no competition. I've heard people say to me, well, unless you're really an inventor, there generally will be some competition. So avoid being bespoke, avoid being unique, and so avoid saying you need percentages of marketplaces, because actually just say to them, we need so many customers over this 12-month period to break even and then to go forward. Try and really be simple and say about the customers you need to catch, not percentage of market. So you're very new entrants. Just keep it really pragmatic and real. What turns on often investors is looking at that reward potential, looking at, gosh, this might be often some of the simplest ideas have the greatest reward. Even if your idea seems so simple, why hasn't it been done before? Then maybe it is a really great solution to something people have just not organized around. They want to see you've done your homework, your market research. They want to see you as open and transparent. Yeah, even if you need to get people to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, I've got those if you need them. It's important that you can be, with who you're discussing the idea with, really transparent. They want to see your drive and enthusiasm. Really, if you're not excited by this idea, then why should they be? But that you're practical within that, you've got it battened down. Yeah, and that they can really trust you. Small business is very much relationship driven. Can you make a relationship with those you're trying to invest in your business, whether that's an employee or a partner or a freelancer or an investor? Can you have an exchange and build relationships? Any questions on impressing the investor? Is that quite anything I've missed, do you think? In terms of, if you were to look at an investor, might be someone that's giving their time. It could be a mentor, it could be a coach. It doesn't have to be someone putting, I did write it in terms of finance here, but people invest in you in different ways.
With regards to being open and transparent, it is something that's always bothered me, that certain people who I'd need to speak to, or who would be really good to speak to, they have a common interest with kind of developing something that I'm working on. And what would stop them really just saying, you know what, that's a great idea, but we've got resources, we'll put that into action first. Because, say, for instance, a national governing body, Sport England, or the UK Youth Sport Trust or something, that they have a responsibility and a role to create impact in schools through different interventions and stuff. So, but through talk to them, I could really network. But at the same time, it does scare me that they could take the idea in a way. So that non-disclosure, I haven't really heard much about that. That seems, but I also wouldn't want to put people off too early by it. Does it put people off by asking for them to sign a non-disclosure?
Anyone else can chip in. My thing is, in about 30 years of doing loads of startups, I've had 2 stolen. 2. It can get nicked, your idea. But that says the whole 98% that are not. So I'd really encourage you to share your ideas, because actually in creating relationships, I can do a whole session if you want around social capital and building your social capital. If you look at the London School of Economics, if you look at the New Economics Foundation, there's a lot of research into social assets, social capital in your business being measurable. So what does that mean? That means relationships. That means in the small business we have to build that up, because actually those relationships become trust. And it becomes back to that point I made about know who rather than know how. So my network around me is my insurance. So people have reputations. People don't want bad press. Yeah, so I think relationships is what you need to be looking to build as an asset and as a resource in your business, because then they become your insurance. It becomes like the mafia around you, know who, okay? So if my clients are all big, police, probation, universities generally. So, their contracts way override mine. And if I don't get paid, for example, or universities want to pay you the 9-month lead time generally from delivery to getting paid. I can't pay my mortgage. That's a long time. So over the years, I've got to know people in accounts departments. And can I get paid monthly? Can we break down the fee? Or because when I was younger, I used to wait and borrow. I just I can't. But trying to create a relationship where it works both ways. So, and then sometimes I didn't get paid. What can I do? I can't sue them. Can't afford to take them. Can't afford to do that. You don't want to sue anyone if you can avoid it. But I'd pick up the phone to someone I knew in the network that was senior, and then my invoice would get paid.
Okay.
Is that clear what I'm saying? This is not textbook. This is practical experience. So share your ideas. NDAs, I can help Lizzie. Lizzie will have NDAs. Lizzie, have you got NDAs?
Yeah, but I would pretty much agree with what you're saying. we're based on, it's all about Trust Launchpad, and you do need to share your ideas. That's what we believe. But if we needed an NDA, we'd be able to get you one.
Yeah.
I agree with what Wendy said. You know,
Yeah.
it's unlikely that anyone's going to steal that idea.
If you're good as well, and I am good at this, I can generate loads of ideas. I want the next thing. And I also have to say, most people have ideas but don't do anything about them. You guys are a unique set of people. So that regardless of my slides today, the value of today is each other. Because my first business partner was on a business, the business is still going 30 years, I'm not involved in it, but I met her, I left university and I went on a business thingy, business enterprise thing. And from there, they are still the mentors and still the people that I have in my network. So in fact, I don't speak Mandarin, and sorry if people do, but is it Guanxi? Is it Guanxi? Anyone speak Mandarin? Well, the East, that's why they're rising. The tiger economies, Guanxi means relationship. They'd say the key ingredient in a successful business is Guanxi or Guanxi. I can't pronounce it, but it means, they even have a word for it because they know that's your insurance. So yeah, relationship, trust. You may get dragged over the coals, and it has happened to me. Yeah, but it's twice, and I'm on time. It didn't.
Like you said, I don't think my idea anyway is ready enough to be taken like that. But it did cross my mind, the common interest. But yeah, you're definitely right. It's all about that relationship building.
I'd love to do a session with you around. I could do a whole session around networking and social capital, and people think that's the softer side, but boy, in small business, it's critical. It's really not the soft side. It's critical because these people are gatekeepers to resources.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to say we need to impress the investors, and part of that is having done your homework. Look, second one down on the list, has done their homework. Homework means you've done some market research, which is quite the fun bit, actually. So market research, I think you need to do some primary market research. You need to be chatting to potential customers and, as we now know, potential suppliers, because you can't deliver unless you've got some good relationships with your suppliers. Who are you partnering with? So, there's some interesting things around how you might just talk to some potential customers. If you put some primary market research in your business plan, it's far more credible. And also that data belongs to you. And that is testing. The best market research is just to sell. When I first used to do business development programs, I get all the students going out selling trays of sandwiches. You can't do that because of health and safety now. But I'd send them off with trays of sandwiches, something they weren't emotionally attached to, but it's quite a ubiquitous thing. And it was before you had, I'm old, going back about 25 years, you go out into a trading estate with a tray of sandwiches and go into it and just knock on doors and just get some, just have that experience. Selling can be really hard, but it's easier if you're not emotionally attached to your product, and sandwiches just generally was not an emotional attachment. Because you get a no or you get a yes, and just getting that feedback, great, better selling. So the best market research primary is to sell. So sometimes I would sell my products. I had no idea about pricing, still don't really. And I used to underprice, and I used to realize that some of these keynote speeches I do, or some of these events for Northumbria Police, remember once the buffet cost more than us, And so I realized, oh God, I've got this wrong. So I'd go and do it for nothing. I'll come and do this session for nothing. So I remember training the trainees at Northumbria Police Force to cascade a new policy around interpersonal violence and date rape and response times. That's my area. And I came in, was young, we were 23, we had our one blazer each, and we had it in the car, we put it on and we'd go in. And, these guys are riding in they didn't much of us, so we're like this Blue Peter session, we did this session and we did it for nothing. And it was about changing behavior in the police force at that time. And we're training the trainers so it could be cascaded through. And I said, we'll do it for nothing for you, because I have no idea the value. I don't know what value I'm creating. We didn't say that. Come and do it for nothing. And what I want for the Chief Commissioner is a letter of recommendation. So if you can give me 2 hours, I will achieve X, Y, and Z, about 2.5 hours of lunch. 2.5 hours, this will make the change. And then if it doesn't, everyone can laugh at me. If it does, I next time, it's X amount, but I need a letter of recommendation, because how my product will be sold would be they would phone up the commissioner of the auction, they would sell it for me. So I didn't know, and I was testing the marketplace pre-launch, and go for free, don't go cheap, because it's hard to raise your prices. Okay, that's just an idea. So this is interesting, you can do this from your desk, is secondary research. If you have these are all available in the library. You know, the database of the fantastic thing about being at the university is the licenses to these databases for sectors of people. So these are market research reports that other people have done. So Emerald being one of them, Mintel. Lizzie, we've got all of these at Teesside, haven't we? All these databases.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, most libraries like Newcastle City, I live in Newcastle, most city libraries used to have these, but their subscriptions are just too expensive anymore. So being attached to university is great commercially, market research.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to plug my computer in. We'll have a little break in a minute. So have a look at Small Business Journal, Harvard Business Review, whatever the trade journal is for your sector. Some of you are in education, some of you are in arts, and some of you are techie. Who's doing, and you know, getting a sense of what's known out there. Business tools, applying frameworks within there. We've done MARE this morning. You're going to be doing a business model canvas. These are all good models to be thinking about validating your idea. Harnessing the data that's already out there. You know, a Mintel report, if I had to go and buy it as a punter, is about £500 for one report. You just go in the library to put the keyword in and get it for free. So there's no reason why you can't access current secondary market research at the click of a button. So if I was judging the competition, I don't know what Liz has got planned, but I'd want to see you've done some homework, because you've got those resources at your fingertips. Also looking at media sources, but quality. Of course, you wouldn't be going to anything like Wikipedia, and I know you wouldn't. But looking at really so sound is that everything's biased, but looking at sound media sources, looking at periodicals or trade journals, looking at what's the latest. And I like magazines with pictures, so I go to trade journals. I look at an article. The journalist, if they're good, they've synthesized a lot of resource, and then see who they've quoted and go to that author. Obviously there's lots of websites, apps, there's lots of, I think really we're looking at secondary market research then. So I really look at Fame, look at Companies House, look at crowdfunding sites, I've said, and look at Mintel, pull off some reports. Also as well though, try and think about presenting and synthesize the information you find into really accessible presentations. So using images, using photographs, using pie charts, using tables. Don't, in your business plans, produce too many statistics. Just maybe some headline statistics, and then make that really pragmatic to your case that you're making. So in a way, business planning is like putting a case together to say, wow, this is a really great opportunity. Okay. I put some hints into there, some questions you might want to consider when doing your market research, but a business plan is definitely going to have some evidence of both primary, your own research, potential customers, potential suppliers, and then secondary. It can be qualitative or quantitative. You can do some data stuff, which is quantitative. Qualitative is when you go and chat to people and get their opinions. It can be a mix, and nice to have a mix of both. So again, there's a summary there. If you want to get data, you may do questionnaires, you may do observations, you may do focus groups. But the key thing is you start to think about ethical issues around your research, that you keep it confidential, you keep it on secured servers. Lizzie, do folk get access to the OneDrive of the university?
No.
Okay,
No,
so you
I don't think so.
Okay,
I can pass stuff on.
So you might want to think about how you're going to keep your market research data secure. You know, if you're interviewing, if you're having that conversation with someone that's going to make a difference to your business, you've got to tell them if it's on the record or off the record. And if it's off the record, you've got to keep that information they're going to tell you secure. Yeah, so you've got to think about how you quote from people, how you can get official testimonies, you can get recommendations, but you can also have conversations that are off the record. And again, if we're talking about building a reputation, if we're talking about creating our network and our social capital, and know who. We want to be known to be of our word. But then we keep things confidential if necessary. Okay, typical mistakes in your business plan when you're presenting your market research. Again, you say, oh, I can get a percentage of the market. Just tell me how many customers you're going to get in 12 months. How many might you get in 3 years? And maybe a good scenario and a minimum scenario. Yeah, often people do market research on people that are never going to be their customers, and they waste time. So they ask family and friends, waste of time. They're going to say, yes, they love you. Try and look wider than that and try and survey really the buyers that you're going for. So obviously, if you're working in the education market, it's not the teachers or the children that are your buyers. It's the education authorities. It's those that hold the budgets that are your likely buyers. Often people are influenced by a self-positive loop. You know, people like it, their colleagues like it, people in the incubator or launchpad like it, and you get a false sense. So part of your market research is to really test the validation of your idea, to go wider than your immediate network. Market research as well is a great way of chatting to people and building your network as well. Asking loaded questions. You like this, don't you? This is good, isn't it? Yeah? And that's going to go, because British people are lovely. They'll go, yes, it's lovely, to your face. Also, ignoring information that's coming back in. So seeing people present data in their business plans where actually is saying there's not a desire, a need for it. And there's some real signals for other ways the business can go, but the entrepreneur can't really hear those signals. Assuming you can compete on price, you can never compete on price. You are not going to be the cheapest because you're small and you can't sell volume. You're going to be quality and premium. You can't, it's another session, but you're not competing on price. And don't forget, and I can forget this when I'm sick of a client, but 80% of your sales do come from about 20% of your customers. Is it Pareto's rule? I can't remember. When I've wanted at the end of the year to think, I can't be bothered to do this contract, something I've done on Tanner, I realize it's a good payer, you've got to help you make a decision. Underestimating the cost of running a business and underestimating the time it will take you to get to market. I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but this is where the planning is worth the investment, that sweat equity into creating some planning documents or a business plan is really worth it, because it communicates to others that you're taking this seriously and you're about to put the investment in. Also forgetting, it's a bit back to, I think it was Umran's point about sharing ideas. I know you want to share ideas and protect them, and you need to, but you mustn't forget that competitors will react. Yeah, they will copy and they may react. Okay, we've got about half an hour left. And really, I want to just have a little break. I'm going to set you a little task to do for about 10 minutes. And then we'll pull it together in the last 20 minutes. And I'll leave you with a template for a business plan. That's where I want to get to. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit of help. So I'm over-egging it, but I'm emphasizing you've got to do your homework, which is my code word for market research, whether primary, whether secondary. I've put a few links there to surveys that you don't pay ever to use online surveys. You can at least survey a couple of hundred people for free on things like SurveyMonkey or Question Form or whatever, or Google Forms, whatever. Don't forget crowdfunding sites are a great place to look at, particularly social enterprises or non-profits, and looking where the innovation and new ideas are coming from. So I've put a couple of links to crowdfunding sites there for you as well. These are all active when you open the presentation up. It's animated. Okay, market research, you could do it simply like this. Do you buy this product? How often? And tally it. The point of this slide is just say, try and record your data. And it can be a very simple way. So a very simple questionnaire where people have to commit not just a yes or no, but a bit deeper than that, to the frequency of what, or even doing a bit of mystery shopping. I've often phoned up other consultants and see if I can contract them and see what they're charging and what their terms and conditions are. Just do a bit of mystery shopping. I mean, I don't like to cheat anyone. I wouldn't get anyone doing a big quote for me and spending a lot of time, but I would phone up and say, think about doing this project, think about partnering, what are your charges, what's your availability, how long do you think it might deliver, blah, blah, blah. Just get a sense, just do a bit of mystery shopping. As long as you don't, I don't like the sense of making people do huge quotations and they're wasting their time. Okay, so I'm not going to do that in teams. We're going to have a 10-minute break, and this is a question for you individually, or you can phone a friend. We're going to just spend the last bit of the session talking about the business plan, a traditional business plan, but I want it to be applicable to your business. So I want you to go make a coffee and write down some of the key, this could be 4 or 5 questions that you would need your business plan to answer. You might want to go back in the slides to the MARE model. You might want to think about validating your idea if you haven't started yet. What might you need, your criteria that we talked about. So, however you want to do it. But the task is just 10 minutes. Is that okay? So I'll say we're ready for 1:45. Is that enough time for people? Lizzie, is that work out? 1:45. We're finishing at 1. We're finishing at 1. So 1:45. So have a break, comfort break, and grab a drink, and just for yourself, have a sense of these key questions. And that hopefully will then give a rationale to why you might develop a business plan. And these questions are not theoretical, they're for you and your team here right now, please. They're contemporary questions, they're current. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Is there anything you need to ask for the task before I go? Or you'd like to add? We're nearly there, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, see you in a bit. Okay.